What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a little new discussion here at Three Shades of Whatever, a little political discussion, if you will. Not really talking about who we like, who we don't like. It's not about that. We're going to talk about our polling's accurate, and who do we think might actually pull off this victory come next week, huh? What do you guys think? I'm sure you're going to tell us in the comments.
So obviously it's in the news every day.
Yes.
Every YouTube ad is a political ad. This one's a rapist. This one's a killer. This one's a communist. This one's a fascist. All right, whatever. Yeah, it's crazy. Like Dana White said, politics is the dirtiest. It's a dirty beast. It really is.
Definitely right. Absolutely right. You guys know.
But hold on. So I've been very interested in what's going on because I like data. You know, I'm a man of data. I like reading studies. Like, the things I'm interested in are like health studies and supplements and stuff like that, because I like to try to maximize my diet and supplements. And I've read so many studies and I've interpreted a lot of data. And what I find interesting is the news media is just saying how close this race is.
Is it though?
And granted, if you look at the polls, it does seem close. Right now, I think as an aggregate, as a whole average, Trump has made a boost compared to where Kamala Harris was in the summer.
Yeah.
But the media is just like, it's so close, it's so close. And my take on this, and I'm sure people have already heard it, that it seems to me like Trump outperforms polls.
Oh, dude.
And
here's my opinion on that real quick. What I believe, because if you think back to 2016, right? Mm-hmm. They had Hillary up in the polls by a few points. She loses. Then you have 2020.
Well, we're gonna get into that. That's exactly what this is going to be.
I'm making a quick point here. We'll get into the details of it. I'll let you do that in a minute. But I just want to say, then in 2020 it was a bigger margin, and he loses. Then blah blah blah. I think it's mostly because you know how it is nowadays. If somebody asks you who you're voting for, and an average person says Trump, if you're a Kamala supporter, they go crazy. Nobody wants to tell you who they're voting for, which I kind of agree with, to be honest. But nowadays, nobody's telling you who they vote for because they're scared of getting ridiculed for supporting Trump.
Yeah, I mean, look, those are the reasons why it might be that way. But without, again, and I have some theories too. I'm not really going to name them theories. What I'm going to do is, if you look at the screen, I'm going to go through what does the data show, okay? Not why, or, we could get into that. And right after I show the data, let's dive into why. But the screen that I have up here right now is this is Real Clear Politics. This is what I go by. Mm-hmm. And it basically just lists all the national polls. And if you look down here, you could go down. This is all the national polls. You could go down from all the past dates.
Yeah.
You could go back to when it was Biden versus Trump, and then Kamala came in, and then it changed. So what they do is, in the national average, what they do is they take about a week's worth of polls. Once a poll is over a week old, they kind of disqualify it to be in the average. So right now you could see on this screen, the average right now, the national, which we all know it doesn't matter. It's an indicator, the national polls or the national vote. It's an indicator, but that isn't who wins the election, but it is an indicator. So what we'll get into is, right now, Trump in the aggregate is up 0.4% in the national polling. Okay. Now, what does that mean as far as 2016 and 2020? If you look back, this day in history, it gives you the average of the polls that Biden was ahead. It says Biden plus 7.4. Yep. October 29, 2016, it was Clinton plus 4.6. Mm-hmm. So now let's click this little thing here. Let's go back to 2020.
Yeah, how much did Biden actually win by?
So now, if you look here, Biden, this average you see right here. So let me go back again. Let's remember this number. So this day in history,
I got 7.4 in my head. I'm good.
Okay, 7.4 is in here. Now, if you go back a month, lead was even bigger. This is this day in history, which is very close to the election. As the election gets closer in the past two elections, the polls did become a little bit more accurate, but they were they were actually less tight. Like, if you go back a month, Biden might have been up by like 9.6. But considering it's October 29th and the election is coming up soon, this day in history, Biden was up 7.4. So we're going to click that. And this screen pops up. What you see on the top here, you got final results. Biden won by 4.5 in the national numbers. Okay. The RCP average the day before the election, or a few days, that the final average, which just takes that week's worth of polls, was 7.2. But like we saw in this day in history, it was actually a little higher.
Yeah, so they're basically off 3%.
Yeah, so you could see this national poll. And just keep in mind, there was moments when this average was up to like 10. Only right before the election did this average actually close the distance at 7.2. And then the final results, he won by 4.5. So that's like a 2.7% swing in the direction of Trump, underestimating Trump votes. And again, the national average does not really matter. It's just an indicator. Now, you can say that Biden won by 4.5 there, and it was actually electorately like pretty close. So this was actually a close election. So now, real quick, we'll go to October 29th, 2016 against Clinton in the national average. And let's remember this number. So 4.6. Clinton was up 4.6 this day in history. Okay. And she won by 2.1.
Lost.
No, she won the national vote by 2.1%.
Oh, sorry, national. I got you. Okay.
This isn't the electorate. You win by the electorate.
No,
so she won. She won by 2.1%. The final average was 3.2%. So if you want to really compare it to the final average, it was 1.1 percentage off. But this day in history, she was up 4.6%. So that's a 2.5% swing. So if you just take that data right there, and again, this is a lot of data. This is tons and tons of polls.
Insane amounts of data. Yeah, insane amounts. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. If you take those data right there, compare the 2016 election, the 2020 election, and both of them had Trump behind, right? Both of them had Trump behind points, 7.4, or was it? I think I know it was 4.6, and then boom, we have him up 0.4%, which is a small margin, but to have him up now means he might end up winning by those standards by like 2.5%.
Right. If you want to, and then
2.5 points. Excuse me. I keep
a
saying
lot of people's narrative is that
pardon.
A lot of people's narrative is that pollsters have made up for this, and look, that is a variable. So nothing is absolute. These polls could mean really nothing. Kamala Harris could win by a landslide. I don't believe that's going to happen. Or Trump could win by a landslide. Might happen. But all this may mean absolutely nothing. So let's actually dive in for a second into the state polls. So the way I broke it down is there's the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt. Trump is a favorite in the Sun Belt, which is North Carolina, Arizona, and Georgia. If he wins those three states, that means he only needs to win one state in the Rust Belt, which is Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So real quick, we're going to do this really fast. Arizona, right now, Trump is up plus 2.2. Arizona is generally red. He's up 2.2. So right now, considering that Trump usually outperforms polls, he's got a healthy 2.2 lead in the average there. Let's go to North Carolina. Yeah. North Carolina is a little bit more dicey. Trump is up by one.
Yeah.
Clinton in 2016 was up by 3 this day in history, up by 3, and she lost by 3.6.
Damn.
Okay.
That's a 6-point margin.
Yeah. Let's look at Georgia. Trump is up 2.4%, which he was
might
up.
Pull all the friggin' swing states, bud. He really might.
So there's the Sun Belt. If he holds on to that Sun Belt, which is generally more Republican based on like the past, then he needs to win one of the 3 Rust Belt. Now, the Rust Belt is generally more Democrat. So you would, if you were to ask a year before the election, you would think the Democrats are favored in the Rust Belt. Trump won all 3 in 2016, and he lost all 3 in 2020. So if we look at the Rust Belt, we'll start with Pennsylvania. Okay, here's Pennsylvania. Right now, Pennsylvania in the aggregate, which is the average of all the polls, the recent polls, Trump is up 0.6%. Okay.
For Pennsylvania?
Now, for Pennsylvania. Now, Trump against Clinton in 2016, in this day in history, was up by 5 points. Trump won by 0.7 points. So Trump was undervalued 5.7 percentage points in Pennsylvania. Let's look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin, in the aggregate, which at no point in the past two elections was he leading. Wisconsin, Trump is up 0.6 points. Against Clinton, he was down 6.5 points, and he won by 0.7. Okay.
So basically, what you're telling me is all the signs are pointing that Trump's going to pull this off.
Yeah, and then the last one is Michigan. Well, I'm just looking at data. The last one is Michigan.
That's what we're all supposed to go by, right? We're supposed to go by the data. The data don't lie. The data tells the truth. So here we are going by the data. And the data to me looks like Trump's going to take it pretty heftily.
I think you should go by data. So Michigan, 2016, Trump down by 7, wins by 0.3. Against Biden, he's down 8.2. This is in Michigan. And he loses by 2.8. But again, he was down 8.2. There's almost like a 6%.
Yeah, it's every time it's 6 points.
What I'm saying in a nutshell is if you go by the data and you look at these polls, and it comes down to 7 swing states. If he wins all 3 Rust Belt states, all 3 Sun Belt states, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, he only needs to win 1 Rust Belt state. He's leading in 2 right now. He's narrowly down in the other one. In all 3 of those Rust Belt states, Trump outperformed the polls in the past. If I had to choose who's going to win, and I know it's a hot topic and a lot of people are debating it, it looks to me like Trump may actually be leading by a landslide.
I think he is. I don't think it's going to be close. That's my personal opinion. Y'all can hate on me all you want for it. I don't care. I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments. We talked about that video where we made fun of Robert De Niro for going outside of Trump's courthouse. Somebody in the comments literally said to us that if Trump wins, it's solely your and I fault.
Yeah, like people like us. Listen, we're little. Look,
damn it.
If I'm going to give my non-biased, because I'm not really biased. I'm going to give my non-biased view on these 2 campaigns right now. Okay. Let's start with Kamala Harris. Okay. I do not think she is a communist. I don't think it's like that. She's not a Marxist and all those things, those ad hominem attacks. I do believe she differs in what's best for the country than Donald Trump. I just don't believe that she's like this communist or a Marxist. I wonder if she knows what Marxist means.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, look, go watch people who watch us, go watch her interviews, and you tell me if she's politically skilled. Okay? In my opinion, here's my opinion, I think she's the least politically skilled candidate that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I believe that there's a reason for these primaries and why people weed people out and actually vote for people. Granted, your political prowess doesn't mean you'll have good policies or bad presidencies or bad this. It could be an indicator. For instance, when she's asked a question and she really don't know what's going on, she struggles. A lot of people, they could rest on their knowledge on a topic and actually just expound on it and like try to, weave around things. She doesn't seem to have knowledge on particular topics. She seems lost and scared. What do you think about that?
I think that she has a prosecutor's way of debating, if you will, or answering just simple questions. If she doesn't have her answers prepared mentally for whatever question it is, like for the debate, for example, that was clearly prepared answer. She knew what she was going to say. She was decisive, and she was able to prosecute basically how she looked at it against Trump. But you put her on ABC News the next day on a local affiliate, and she's basically reiterating the same exact answers she gave during the debate to different questions.
Yeah, she seems like she has something memorized that she says over and over again.
Correct. She is very good at memorizing talking points and reiterating them very well. But when you put her off the cuff where she has to actually answer off the top of her head, it's a train wreck every time.
She struggles. And
Bro,
look,
it's bad.
If you're
she gets real nasally when she struggles, too. It's funny.
If you're a Democrat, and I don't know if Democrats necessarily disagree, again, no ad hominem attacks. I don't think she's bad. I don't think Kamala Harris is bad at
I'm not saying it like that.
she's a bad person or a communist. I just do believe she's not a good politician. And if you're a Democrat and you're really looking at her going like, man, she's really good as a politician, then you're really like your eyes, nose, and ears blind to the world.
Yeah.
Let's shift to Trump's campaign. I'm going to keep it short. Trump is actually running a really good campaign. Does Trump say and do things to put his foot in his mouth? Yes.
Yeah,
Trump
of course, he does.
Trump is also not a good politician. In fact, he's not a politician at all. He's a cult of personality that won through a totally different way of doing things, which is that cult of personality shock factor. He came in 2015 in a Republican National Convention, and he flat out started making fun of everybody on that stage, and that's what made him popular. Do I agree with it or disagree with it? I'm only stating what it is.
No,
now,
you're right. And you're right.
He has a huge. He did all the podcasts. He's obviously better at doing podcasts than Kamala Harris is. Whether you think he's lying or doing this or doing that, he flows much better.
He's well spoken.
I mean, he's
for the most part he has his flubs, but I'm talking he can keep coming off the top of his head and not look like a complete jackass. That's what I'm saying.
Here's what I could say.
Even though some of you think he looks like a complete jackass no matter what he does, and that's your opinion, whatever.
I believe that he could hold a conversation with these podcasts much longer than her. I'll leave it at that. Does he make mistakes? Yeah, he just had the Madison Square Garden thing, which I think is absolutely great. He could have done without Tony Hinchcliffe.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, bro, I get it. But yeah, that was not a good look for you. It was a silly move, and I don't blame Trump for it. It might have just been the people who put the shit together for him, because I don't believe he's the one doing all this shit by himself. But yeah, without Tony would. I mean, but at the same time, anybody out there getting offended by what Tony did obviously has no idea what Tony does.
Well, all right, you don't. Again, so look at it for what it is, right? On one hand, he is a comedian. He is a roaster who does these shock type. So
correct.
I'm not going to take what he says as actual like campaign statements, but what I could like the left is going, this is what they're saying, this is what they mean. It's like, no, Tony Hinchcliffe, he says wild shit. That's who he is. However,
yes,
I could say that it was a mistake for the Trump campaign to put him at Madison Square Garden. That event would have been a good event without Tony Hinchcliffe. So you didn't really need the edgy, and Tony Hinchcliffe, he did make fun of everything. And whole Puerto Rico, Mexico thing, what he was doing was he was making fun of the whole immigration thing as a whole because it's a big topic.
Well, actually, that's a little wrong. I'm going to tell you something. I was watching a video today, actually, of a woman explaining what the problem over there really is. They don't recycle over there, and they have problems with landfills in Puerto Rico. That's where the trash heap thing comes from.
Yeah, so there was a point to that. Again, so that's actually good that I did hear that too. I heard there's a trash thing with Puerto Rico.
There really is. They don't recycle and they have trash landfill problems in Puerto Rico. Yeah, that's real.
And people are making a bigger deal out of it than it is. So
of course they are. It's talking points. They've got nothing else.
To be in the middle, what I'm saying is, bad idea for Trump to do. The left is overemphasizing what actually happened. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like it was a mistake. That's not his political. He's not. He doesn't think that about Puerto Rico. He's not saying it. We can't just put words in Trump's mouth. Does Trump say wild stuff and put his foot in his mouth all the time?
Of course.
But in this case, but. As a whole, I would say that he's running a better campaign. He did all the podcasts. Kamala, her skill is not keeping her there was like excitement in the polls when she first came in because Biden was like he's just imagine if he was still running.
Oh God! Anyway, dude. It might actually be even better because some of the answers she gives, I facepalm so hard.
Yeah, but their campaign is. It right now it's running on like Trump is Hitler and a fascist. And I think people are ear blind to that now. People have heard it for so long.
That's the point. People are sick of it, sick of the same old bullshit rhetoric. They really are. He's a Nazi. He's the new 𝐑𝐂𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐈𝐎𝐍𝐒. You know, it's not true. It's just ridiculous. He was president before. We have a track record of what he did and what he was. And then I hear people like Cenk on Piers Morgan talking about, oh, well, that was before. This is now. It's all the same shit. I'm tired of hearing it.
You're right. And
now,
look, as an American, you're allowed to vote and be who, No,
go ahead.
As an American, I'm not, again, this is not you. Everybody vote for who they want to vote for. If you hate Trump, if you hate Kamala, I think we need to be less divisive as a whole. Like, listen,
that's apparent.
I don't care if who I'm not voting for becomes president. I still got to go to work. I really don't care. I just found it interesting that the mainstream media as a whole is making it like this election is super close, super close. It's close if the polls are 100% accurate, and if the polls did make up for some mistakes they've made in the past. Then you could say like maybe there's it's a little more accurate, but even if it's just 1 point, even if it's 50% as much in Trump's direction than it was in the last 2 elections, then Trump wins by landslide.
A lot, yeah.
He might win. So my prediction is Trump is going to get 312 electoral college votes. To Harris, I think it's going to be like 226. That's my official prediction. To me, it doesn't matter who wins. Vote for whoever you want to vote for. I don't care who wins.
Yeah, I definitely don't have an official prediction.
The reason why also when it comes to data and these polls that it's interesting is this is Trump's 3rd time in a row running for president. So
Correct.
We have 2 data sets to go by. A lot of times you only have 1 data set. Now,
and they were both pretty identical as far as the split.
Yeah. I would agree. Right. So a lot of people try to look at data sets from a party, like, oh, did they overestimate or underestimate the Democrats 3 times in a row or Republicans 3 times in a row? That to me,
not really accurate.
that's not as accurate or as precise as this is unique because Trump is running for a 3rd time in a row, and we have 2 large data sets, and the trend is that Trump gets underperformed. I looked at data from this. It was 100. It was he underperformed 100% of the polls against Clinton and like 83% of the polls against Biden. And so right now, if that's the case, it's not looking good for Harris.
I agree thoroughly. I really do. You know I do. We've talked about this plenty. But yeah. So what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think the polls are accurate? Do you think because here's my one thing about the polls. I've never been polled. No one calls me and says, "Hey, who are you voting for?" It never happened.
I know you wonder how these polls. I try to find out because I've been interested in it, and they're like, "Oh, they call people. Some people answer. Some people
some people get mailers and they fill them out." I've never gotten a mailer, and I've definitely never filled it out. So.
Listen, there's always a chance. Listen, everything I say is in probabilities. It is not in absolutes. I'm saying the probability is a Trump landslide. Could these polls, there's a variable involved. How much did all these pollsters change their polls? Did they change them enough to the point where it's all completely wrong and the trend means nothing? Possibly. So I'm not saying this is just a guess. And again, that's all it is, really. It's just, it's an educated guess.
Who are you going to vote for, Greg? I'll tell you who I'm going to vote for.